We are one step closer to the regular season of the NFL, and we are going to get ahead and tell you who we refuse to draft in the 2025 season.
Even if there's a fire.
I've got Alfredo Brown with me, and we're going to jump right into it. I'm going to give mine first because just like we should do for SEO, I'm going to give the most popular player first. It is Tyreek Hill of the Dolphins. Dynasty rank. Here at Player Profiler, where I'm at Fast Draft, which is a subsidiary of Roto Underworld, he is ranked 48. That is shadow round for Dynasty. But redraft, we keep saying maybe there's a chance. He's ranked at 22. Flex 4 ADP, draft 6, only flex position, so you're only going to start 432. That's the maybe there's a chance. If you're playing Fast Draft, folks, just draft a running back there. Don't draft them. And then a redraft that going to 22, some of you are banking on him being your wide receiver 1. If you're going buff running back, maybe your wide receiver 2. Alfredo, you are the resident Dolphins fan.
Unfortunately.
Yes, it ages you every year. Will you be rostering Tyreek Hill?
Yeah, these grays are not genetic. It's not from my wife. It's just strictly from the Dolphins just being
He doesn't have kids.
Yeah. I'm a dink, man. Dual income, no kids. The grays are coming in because the Dolphins, like, it's the one thing, like, I resonate with Hootie and the Blowfish when he has that one, like, silly line, the Dolphins make me cry. By the way, Darius Rucker, Dolphins fan. Yeah, man, like, I don't know that I love Tyreek Hill this year. It's just the injuries with the wrist injury, the knee injury, the reports that he's showing up late to meetings, the reports that he doesn't really care out on the practice field. And there was just so many times last year where it was just drop after drop. And I know everyone's saying like, well, this is actually kind of the discount. This is the time you go and get him. No, I think this might actually be the beginning of the end. And it's not just him. There's a bunch of these older wide receivers where I think we're about to see them drop off the age cliff.
Yeah, this is where I keep saying like he's in his podcast P era where you're like, man, Paul George doesn't seem to be playing a lot of basketball, but he seems to be in a lot of podcasts. Like that's what I feel like for Tyreek Hill. Is like I feel like even a homeboy from the Olympic team, I feel like he canceled the race where he's like, man, maybe you should focus on your job. Don't you have like 40
I'm doing
kids?
this for you.
Yeah, he's like, I'm doing you a favor. And like Tyreek Hill doesn't even care where he's just kind of saying, he's like, yeah, I didn't really care last year. What he says, like, I wasn't in the lab. And I'm like, okay, you're not now. So I'm still
That's
concerned.
super helpful. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just the Dolphins are, I won't say an entire fade because I know the Roto Underworld team's like, fade all the Dolphins. I will take Jalen Wright at cost. I will take Jalen Waddle at cost. But Tyreek Hill is old premium Jalen Waddle, and I don't want any of that. That's just none for me, dog. I'm just like the Jonah Hill meme. I'm just like, it's not for me.
No. You ever seen Jalen Waddle by itself? No, not for
Yes.
me. The Dolphins, like there's actually a potential there where their defense could be so bad that their offense is forced to pass the ball a ton. If Tua's healthy, we could be looking at the same Dolphins offense from 2 years ago. And like, I don't think we necessarily need to ignore that. Like, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. We don't like Tyreek Hill. Fine. That doesn't mean you have to dislike Jalen Waddle. You're worried about Tua. That doesn't mean you have to be worried about the running backs. Like you mentioned, Jalen Wright. Like, you know, like there's a lot of things that can still work here. So I don't think we need to be too hasty with them.
Exactly. It's just don't pay for the premium clear red flags when there's just a lot of other stuff a lot cheaper where you can get at the same cost. Alfredo, you have Tyreek Hill Jr. coming up here if you really think about it as your first one.
Yeah, one of the stats I'm going to reference here comes from Ryan Heath over at Fantasy Points, who does some really great work with the Fantasy Points data suite, where he talks about first downs per route run, and that being such a decisive metric in projecting wide receiver fantasy success going into the next season, or if they're going to fall off. And of course, like any metric, it can be wrong. But I reference it here with Xavier Worthy and a couple of these other wide receivers. And Xavier Worthy for the Kansas City Chiefs, he was 58th in this metric of first downs per route run, where he just wasn't super efficient when he was playing. And when he started out the year early, he was seen as this guy who, hey, you exactly what you said, Tyreek Hill Jr., we're going to send you deep. We're going to have you running these deep routes, be the explosive play guy. And every once in a while it happened, but he was exclusively in that role, and he wasn't very successful or very efficient with it. Then Rashee Rice gets hurt, and he gets forced into the Rashee Rice role. He plays in the slot 40% of the time. The ADOT drops from 11.5 yards to 6.5 yards. And all of a sudden, we're seeing a guy who is a lot more efficient, having a lot more success in the Rashee Rice role. Well, guess who's back? Rashee Rice, and he's really good at the Rashee Rice role. He's way more efficient. He's better in first downs per route run. Isaiah Pacheco's back. That was another thing. Like, the team totally lost their ability to run the ball last year, especially towards the end of the season. So if Isaiah Pacheco gives you any form of efficiency back, this is a team that becomes a lot more well-balanced. They're not funneling targets to Xavier Worthy, and he's going to be splitting. Like, we even forget they still have Hollywood Brown on that team too. They went out and drafted Jalen Royals. Like, whatever the pieces of the pie might be, I don't think it's going to be enough volume to sustain Xavier Worthy unless he can actually make those big plays that he was drafted to make. And he didn't show us he could do that last year and win contested catches. So him going in the 4th round of drafts right now is just super concerning for me. And I'd be more in if it was like the 6th round, but 4th round, I'm out.
Yeah, I just, if you checked out last week's pod with Chuck Bass, we covered messy wide receivers rooms, and we said that it's really not messy. It's like you want Rashee Rice, and that's kind of it at this point,
Yep.
And that's where you want to take the discount on, because you nailed it. Xavier Worthy has already kind of shown, at least at this iteration of his career, and from what we've seen and what we can project going forward, he's not Tyreek Hill. And as much as Tyreek Hill was my huge fade and I'm not drafting him, let's just give young Tyreek Hill all the credit. He was a phenomenal player, excellent separator, can do it all over the field. Xavier Worthy is not exactly like that. Moreover, people forget that Tyreek Hill's kind of a jack dude for being like hobbit.
I was gonna say, like it's weird to say for fantasy, but like he was a thicker dude. Like, that was someone who could work through contact. He's a little bit better at change of direction. There's all those things. Like, Tyreek is a different player.
Yeah, like Worthy's not quite it. And then I'm going to talk on the other side of my mouth, because I'm not just poo-pooing on a player, or Alfredo's not just poo-pooing on a player. It's just their usage. We understand how the Chiefs are going to deploy him, but the main point you said, he's going to be more of a boom-bust guy, that dreaded word better in best ball. Because like, speaking of like dynasty, he's going 20 right now. Wide receiver 20 for me is still rich, considering what you can get for that price range. Redraft wide receiver 25, like you said, around the 4th round, people are taking him. Again, that's depending on your build. Your wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, that's a guy that's going to give you a lot of zeros. And I don't think that 45-point game is going to do a lot for you in a winning standpoint. He's just not someone I want. And then, like you said, if Rashee Rice goes down, they just drafted Jalen Royals, who is Rashee Rice even more than Xavier Worthy is. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm going to flip this back to the dynasty side to you and ask you about this trade that I just pulled off. I sent Xavier Worthy, and I got Davante Adams and Jordan Mason back.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think most people would tell you you're crazy.
But I don't think...
I think that so this is a competing team, like you're contending for a ship.
Now I think it is where
Okay.
it was. It's like, that's
okay. No, because like I think that we can actually not just get like a year or two out of Davante Adams, but we can get really good years on the Rams with him there. Like, I think that's being undersold, how good he could actually be on this team. Like, we were heading into last year with him on the Raiders, and we were excited about Davante Adams. And then things just kind of didn't go well with Aaron Rodgers, and we've forgotten how good Davante Adams can be at football. Like, he has that skill set that ages well. Like, he's got like sort of the Kobe skill set, but for NFL, he's just a good route runner with good hands. He doesn't have to be the fastest or strongest, and that works so well with what Matt Stafford does. So I love what you did there for the contending side. And Jordan Mason, I actually talked about him today on my show, is that he's like one of my favorite handcuffs to be grabbing right now, because Aaron Jones is 30 and he just had a career high in touches, over 300 touches last year. He got horribly inefficient as the year went on. And this is going to be a Vikings team that's probably going to have to commit more to the run. So if Jordan Mason truly is this 1B that they traded for, I don't dislike that trade at all.
Yeah. And then to give context, guys, of what I say, like, now I think I'm a competitor, is like, I still have all my picks, and I have Drake May, Breece Hall, Caleb Johnson. I had Drake London as my wide receiver 1. Xavier Worthy was my wide receiver 2. I'm like, I don't love that. So if I can go get Devontae Adams, I feel like I have a safer floor at wide receiver 2 week to week, and another great offense on the Rams. And then I didn't have a whole lot of depth at running back, so I have Jordan Mason that's right there, like to put in my flex, and I still have some other wide receivers. So that's why I say it's like, yeah, that's not going to be the one move that's going to win my league, but it puts me in position to make the move to win my league. Because a lot of people, they want to be complacent and they're like, I only want to acquire some of these young guys. No, sometimes you can get some of these veterans for cheaper, and then it makes it a lot easier to get some of these other guys later to build a team. All right, now we're going to go to the taller, bigger version of all these other wide receivers that we've said to fade. There's a theme here. It's DK Metcalf, wide receiver of the Steelers. I think it's, again, I say he's a taller, bigger version, boom bust type player. And what's going to get people in trouble is the allure that this is Aaron Rodgers last year. He wants to go out and make a statement. He's the only wide receiver there. We saw what Arthur Smith did with A.J. Brown. There's all these narratives there. DK Metcalf has kind of already had that situation. And what have we gotten? 3 games of 3 touchdowns, and then the rest of that time you're poking him with the stick and saying, hey, do something. Dynasty, we're reasonable now. He's still wide receiver 40, redraft. Dynasty, he's ranked 32, redraft 31, flex 4 ADP 55. And then in best ball, take a running back. That's one of your last picks. You're only drafting 6. You have a better chance at getting a running back to give you points. Because remember, in this tournament, guys, it's total points. You're not worried about making playoffs and stacking and doing all that. So I just want the running back to help me get points week over week. Are you drafting DK Metcalf? Can you talk yourself into rostering him for where he's going?
No. I mean, I talked about this with Matt Harmon, and I was saying, like, with Rodgers, I think best case scenario, it's exactly what we got last year, where Rodgers essentially had a lot of the exact same deep ball metrics that Geno Smith had last year. And maybe the target volume goes up, but we've also seen that in Arthur Smith offense, that doesn't always happen. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, like, we've wanted these things to happen. Like, there's a good shot that they really commit to the run with Caleb Johnson, and then they're getting passes to Pat Freiermuth, and they make a trade for Jonnu Smith, and they're running 2 tight end sets. And sure, will DK Metcalf have blow up weeks? Absolutely. Will he still be the first wide receiver getting targets out of that offense? Absolutely. But another thing we talk about all the time on the Football Guys Fantasy Football Show is, like, the wide receiver 1 for one team could be equivalent to the wide receiver 3 on another team. Like, that title of wide receiver 1 doesn't always mean the same thing. And so with that, and Aaron Rodgers, who's gotten horribly inefficient, and who, by the way, his whole career has been a timing guy, a guy who, like, he has to flow with that receiver and work with route runners. That's not what DK Metcalf is. DK Metcalf is a chuck it up, I'll go get it. I'm faster, I'm bigger. That's not where Rodgers has succeeded throughout his career, despite being a pretty solid deep ball thrower.
Yeah, it's an easy fade for me in every format. I have never owned DK Metcalf. I think I have one dynasty share of him, and I can't sell him because that's a sharp league. Nobody wants him, and I got him one time in some deal, and he's just rotting on my roster. Even in best ball drafts, I don't want him in a lot of best ball drafts because, like, oh, cool, I got DK Metcalf. I hope I get the Aaron Rodgers stack. I'm not really wanting any part of that. And then in the Arthur Smith offense, you know what an uptick in passing is? It's like, get ready to learn, like, Michael Pruitt and Jalen Warren, baby.
like, dude, to me, this is probably about the same as what we were getting from George Pickens in past seasons. I don't see it being that much more. I think there's a little bit of, like, a DK Metcalf shine to what's going on and where his ADP is.
Yep. The next one is a U guy, and on this list, he's the only one that I maybe would kind of sort of draft, and I'm on the fence about. So I'm interested on the case against your guy.
All right, well, get ready to not like Jerry Jeudy that much anymore. So I mentioned that first down per route run stat that I brought up before, and how it's pretty predictive on whether or not a player is actually good and whether or not they will continue to have fantasy success. Jerry Jeudy was 44th in that first down per route run metric, and this was a guy who I think a lot of us look at the big games he had. The Jameis Winston effect was so real last year in the games that he started. Jerry Jeudy was having big games, not a big season. 30%. I'm going to repeat that. 30% of his fantasy points last season came from 2 games. 2 games, 30% of his points, like almost a third of what he put up last year was 2 games. Like there was even a time where against the Dolphins, he had 18 targets and still wasn't a top 12 wide receiver that week. And the week before, the week before, it was 3 targets. There was no consistency to what was going on in the Browns offense. And I understand we can't compare last year to this year, but if we're trying to base Jeudy's value off of his success that he had last year with a different quarterback and a different style of offense in something that was totally unpredictable and volatile, I don't think we can justify his price this year. You have Cedric Tillman who's coming back, and in those splits with Cedric Tillman, Jerry Jeudy's averaging nearly 3 less targets and 3 less receptions per game with Tillman on the field. Like, this is an offense that kind of changes dramatically, and now they bring on Quinshon Judkins, who they want to try to establish the run. Like, that is just a thing in the Stefanski offense. Let's establish the run. This is I think it's not going to be a team that is going to be very conducive to Jerry Jeudy having a big year. I know he's not being drafted all that early in terms of where the wide receivers are, but in terms of drafts, he's going in the 6th round of redraft leagues. I can't have Jerry Jeudy be the 6th best player on my roster and be a guy that I have to rely on heavily week in and week out. He finished outside of the top 50 wide receivers in nearly 30% of his games. I understand embracing volatility, but not if I don't have upside as well. And that upside just didn't come often enough for me to embrace a guy who's outside the top 50 so often.
Yeah, man, that was a damning case, to say the least.
I'm just gonna pat myself on the back for that one.
Exactly. And you brought up Matt Harmon earlier. I always go back to him kind of pounding the drum that Jerry Jeudy is not this highly touted route runner that everyone said he was coming out of college, because year in and year out, his reception perception tree, a lot more red and orange than it is green in a lot of areas, and not
he's
a guy
aesthetically
that's
pleasing to look at, and that's what I think a lot of people get stuck on is the aesthetics of it, but not actually that he got open. Like, a lot of people look at the Alabama stuff where he was getting schemed open and it just looked good, so you're like, that's a route runner there, and it's like,
yeah.
Really.
And also, I think of someone who looks great in drills, and then you see like a lot of these practice tapes. I feel like Jerry Jeudy is best case scenario Van Jefferson. If everything had went right for Van Jefferson's life, he could have been Jerry Jeudy at best. Because you're like,
Van Jefferson's just taking strays right now.
I mean, I'm just saying, it's like he runs routes. He looks good. Why isn't he earning targets? You're like, I don't know, man. Like,
he runs routes is just a great analysis. He plays.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't discount the danger, because, like you said, you're drafting him. When you think about and I'm going to reference someone else, my buddy Paul Patterson. He was getting in the weeds of data, and essentially, what's going to make your team is 5 to 6 players, and then everything else you're going to piece together. And if you're going to draft your team accordingly like that, your first 6 picks are the ones that you're thinking I need every one of these to hit. Jerry Jeudy, you're probably drafting as a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. Dynasty, we have him ranked wide receiver 40. That's not nothing. Redraft, wide receiver 37. That's like hey, I'm getting a steal, and you're excited to go click the button because you got the wide receiver 2 or 3 to fix your team. Only because of the format, he is safe in flex 4 and fast draft. I know once we open the rabbit, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, that's a full best ball tournament, you are going to start falling for Jerry Jeudy. And I tell you, nay, child. And with that, I think that's a good time to stop before we talk about Brandon Aiyuk. Hit the like and subscribe button. I'm always talking dynasty, best ball, whatever, just talking ball here. And moreover, if you want the latest best ball news, particularly with Fast Draft, you want to get up on that right now because, like I said, we have our full best ball tournament coming up and we're new, we're fresh. That means these ADPs are wild, y'all. So all you ball knowers can go in and take advantage of that shortly. Also, there'll be a link to the Discord where I go in there and I have an AMA every Friday. And then I occasionally go in there and I trash your roster. No, I actually give actionable advice. So if you want in there, go ahead and click the link. So hit the like, subscribe button, and we'll hop back into it. Now, I'll give you my other one. This is a darling for me. This was like I'm the Wesley Snipes with the gun and a tear in my eyes, sending him to the Shadow Realm. It's Brandon Aiyuk for the 49ers. Dynasty wide receiver 29. Why? Redraft 49. I get it. Flex 4, good job. You guys are doing a good job. You're not falling for that trap there. Like there's somebody's drafting it that's a little high. Don't do that. Slap yourself on the wrist. I don't get the appeal of Brandon Aiyuk. He may or may not come back in 4 weeks. He's not going to be ready. We're going to see a repeat of what we saw last year, which is if you're not having a good off season, you generally don't have a good regular season. So at best, he's going to be, let's say 90% by week 10 or something. And at that point, is he still going to be a focal point of the offense? Because let's just say CMC's back and healthy. We saw Ricky Pearsall take a step forward after coming back for his own injuries, and they drafted him arguably to be a replacement. And then you have Jawan Jennings, who was a rock last year in that offense. And let's not forget George Kittle, who consistently puts up numbers. Brandon Aiyuk isn't necessary for this team. And when he's out there, he already has to be efficient to earn these targets. If he was healthy, if he would have finished last season, if he was with the team right now, I'd be in on it. I don't get it now. Do you think there's a shot? Are you one of these people? It's like, well, if I get Brandon Aiyuk as my wide receiver 4, he's going to be my league winner when I need him most in the playoffs.
I can talk myself into that. I'm not actively pursuing that strategy. If anything, because of where he's going in drafts, he's going right near Ricky Pearsall, who I'd rather just draft because he'll be there all season and not recovering from an injury this time around. Not that I think it's likely, but there's a small possibility that Brandon Aiyuk even gets traded. Like there's always something new that comes up with Aiyuk all the time of a guy who's either not happy or their team's not happy with him. I don't think it's likely, but there's still that small percentage chance. It's just everything with him is all about this injury. And I try not to act like I'm an injury expert. I try to listen to the guys that are injury experts around us, like Adam Hutchison over at Football Guys and what he's had to say. He's not overly worried about Brandon Aiyuk coming back. But then we also get reports that he could be starting the season on the PUP list, right? So he could be the guy. It's just such a waffle by me. Like I don't have a strong take on Brandon Aiyuk, which I think tells you everything you need to know. I'm kind of willing to take him if he falls to like my wide receiver 5 range. And I'm just like, well, there's not really anyone else I like. Let me just take a shot. But he's not a guy I'm actively pursuing.
Yeah. And that's where I think I'm at, where I have him as a fade because I don't feel strong enough about him to where I want to put him on my roster. And I feel like he's going to be someone I'm going to be starting and win me the league, especially around his range, because there's other rookies that I think I'd rather bet on. At that point, I think that there's other...
Like who are some of the other guys that are going in his range right now?
Let me get this pulled up right now.
Because definitely if he's going, I think you said like around like that wide receiver 40 range.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be some rookies there.
Yeah. Let's say like right now you can get a Mecca Egbuka around that range.
Yeah. I'd rather have Egbuka.
Yeah. Like I don't love Trey Harris, but at that gamble, he's going to play. Luther Burden is going there. Again, same thing about the gamble. Stephon Diggs, who I hate. If I'm going to bet on an old wide receiver, I at least want someone who has a clear path to be the wide receiver 1 and is playing all year around.
Do you hate him because he has fun-colored drugs on boats, or allegedly has fun-colored
You
drugs
know
on
that's
boats?
a plus for me, Alfredo.
And
That
now
has
he's
nothing to do-
on your team and pissing everybody off on the Patriots.
Yeah, it's all the other stuff. The drugs thing, I assume
The
everyone
drug
does
is a
drugs.
plus. Like, that's moving him up around.
Yeah. It's like, if anything, like that's what's making me consider even drafting him. No,
It's like, you're kind of cool.
no, it's just I feel like these guys get burned out, man.
Yeah.
Like I'm 33, I've played football my entire life, and I just don't care that much and my body hurts. So I want to go on a cruise, do awesome drugs with a lot of hot women. I get it, but I'm not going to draft you. So that's
Who amongst us hasn't?
yeah. But like I said, at least he's healthy, and the Patriots need him. Like the 49ers don't need Aiyuk. They said it last year. They're like he's like, I want more money. They're like, that's cool, man. That's like good luck. And the Patriots are like, here's some money, and he's like, I'm good. And then he ended up being a 49er, and that's how we got here. So I don't know. It's like you said, he's where he's going at, like Sam Laporta is going in that range too. Go get a tight end, you buy the dip on that. I would rather have DeAndre Swift at cost than Brandon Aiyuk for 2025. That's why I mean, guys, it's not that I think that Brandon Aiyuk is going to come out and shit the bed. He could the first couple of weeks if he needs to get back in it. I still think he's a good player that can earn targets in 2026, but in 2025, I just would rather have someone healthy. Now let's talk about his former teammate that's on your list, that is healthy, or health is a relative term here.
Yeah. Deebo Samuel is healthy like I'm on my diet. Sometimes. For the most part, no.
He's regular person healthy, not NFL healthy.
Right. Like he's good for the earth, not for like NFL Sundays. So I keep referencing the stat. Deebo Samuel, 63rd in first downs per route run. And that was on a very good offense maybe not last year, but the 49ers offense, which has traditionally been pretty good. He goes now to a new offense that is also supposed to be very good with Jaden Daniels, and I think it still can be. I'm slightly worried that Cliff Kingsbury turns into a pumpkin. Like he just does tend to do this. He does really well with rookie quarterbacks, and then he just kind of keeps the offense very simple and never expands past that. And then defenses are just like, oh, well, we pretty much know what you're going to do. Got it. Cool. Like you're not moving Terry McLaurin from the left side. Got it. Cool. You're going to run the same 3 routes with Deebo Samuel. Got it. Cool. And so I've already heard, I've seen the reports, the new offense, they want to use him allegedly in the screen game. And that's great for Deebo Samuel. I mean, he's been number 1 in yards after contact per reception in each of the last 5 years. Like this is what he does well. The problem is I don't want to bet on a 30-year-old making things happen after the catch, a guy who is consistently hurt. And normally I'd be like, it's Deebo. Like you can bet on him doing that because that's what he's done his whole career. Kind of the same way you look at Derrick Henry. Like there's just guys where you're just like, logic doesn't exist with them. The problem is that Deebo started to lose that efficiency. And look back at last year, only 4 games as the top 24 wide receiver. He was outside of the top 40 wide receivers in nearly 60% of his games last year. Like this was just not a good player for fantasy. And then over the final 7 weeks, he had only just 1 game over 22 yards receiving. Like this was a guy that just wasn't an integral part of the offense. He wasn't important for your fantasy team. If anything, he was hurting your fantasy team because of his name value. You were starting him every single week because, hey, it's Deebo. He could pop off for 3 touchdowns and get me 1 on the ground or whatever it is. And that just wasn't happening. So he was such a big detriment to the team. Now he's in a new offense that could be a bit more simplified. He's getting up there in age. Everyone has seen the viral video of him kind of sprinting half speed, looking like every single 30-year-old trying to play flag football on a Saturday morning. And it just doesn't look great. And for all of those reasons, I don't want to be drafting Deebo Samuel at his 7th round ADP right now. I can't imagine having to start him every single week because that's how that would shape out if I'm drafting him in that round.
And I appreciate that you doing the call out of the usage. And the one thing that Deebo does shine is in the screen game. But like you said, that's the stuff that goes fast. I look at the NBA kind of, and I use that as an example. The Dwight Howards fade a lot faster than the guys with a jump shot and stuff like that. Like when once that athleticism goes, and
Deebo
you
Samuel is
don't,
Blake Griffin. Like
yeah, dude, exactly.
He's
That's
really good in the
perfect.
lane. He can make some splashy dunks. He might even get you a 40-point game or a triple double. But once that athleticism starts to go and the injuries start to pile up, it's game
Womp womp.
blouses.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I'm at. I don't want to bet on that. I don't want to bet on. I've still have my reservations of Cliff Kingsbury because like usually what happens with these college guys with this style of offense when they come back, yeah, there's a wrinkle and that's new. Jaden Daniels is doing a lot of that. I'm not going to discredit Jaden Daniels at all,
Yeah.
but usually the NFL figures them out and there's some adjustments coming out there. And then on the flip side, we both debated putting him on here, but Terry McLaurin, he's in that Aiyuk situation where he's not with the team. And then when you're not practicing, it tends to be a slow start. So when you don't have Terry McLaurin out there that can get the most out of Deebo by taking away coverage, I think a lot of people are going in. It's like, Terry ain't going to be out there. So it's going to be a discount. Deebo, man, it's Deebo. But that's kind of where I'm at. He's like, he's a chicken nugget meal from playing tight end, guys. Like I just don't.
That's so. You used to have a high school coach that would just like look at us as a fullback, and he's like, "Boy, you're a tic tac away from playing offensive line." that's exactly how Deebo is right now, man.
Next, we'll go over to the Titans. This is another one where Calvin Ridley. I understand the appeal, and I want to preface this by saying that I think Cam Ward could be the real deal. I've been the most apprehensive on Cam Ward. I am not sold on Brian Callahan. I'm just not it. And I think that Calvin Ridley, his days as a wide receiver one was when he was like a 26-year-old rookie. I think he would be way more effective as a wide receiver too. Now, as you know, I'm a big Elik Ayermanner fan, and they're already penciling him in as the other wide receiver. If he takes a step forward to where he could be a top target, great. Then I like Ridley a little bit more. But even I like Ayermanner, he has to come in as a 4th round pick and make that leap. Those hit rates aren't great. And even like a resident film grinder like me, I can't ignore those statistics. So again, back to the original player with Ridley, you got this guy who's better as a Z flanker who is aging, and you've got a offensive coordinator, which the best thing on his resume is getting to coach Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow, and has proven that the scheme isn't going to lift up an offense, so it better be a quarterback. It just doesn't seem worth it, especially Dynasty 50, going wide receiver 54, that's fine. Redraft at 28, that's why I'm just like, oh man, you guys are taking a big bet for an old wide receiver with a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, Calvin Ridley's one of those guys that I'm kind of thinking of as like, okay, does he at some point become a value because nobody really wants him? If that happens and that ADP starts to drop, then I'm considering it. But every year there's like these, I don't mean like physically ugly. I just mean there's like ugly players that you don't want to draft because you don't like their situation. You don't like their ceiling. You don't like their floor. You don't like their price. Like there's nothing about it that you like. And then you're just like, but he's the best player in the rankings now, and I'm in the 8th round. Do I take him? And you're still just like, no. And like, it feels like that's where I'm going to be with Calvin Ridley, but there's going to be so many of these times. And listen, we may end up regretting that, right? Like you could get a CJ Stroud type rookie season from Cam Ward here. Do I think that's likely? Probably not. I think we might see a very run heavy Tennessee Titans team. The offensive line is set to be a run heavy team. They've got 2 running backs that can, I don't want to say handle the load, but take the load off of each other. They bring in Tyler Lockett as well, who's going to be out there. Not that he's going to be some sort of huge impact on the field, but it's just another guy out there earning targets. So I want to believe in Calvin Ridley. I just don't know that we're going to see a lot of the volume, and we typically don't get that from rookie quarterbacks supporting a wide receiver.
Yeah, and this is, let's just say, another unnamed Bestball website. And where he's kind of being ranked at is just like Travis Hunter just ahead of him. Guess who I'd rather have? Jawan Jennings. Rather have Jawan
Juwan
Jennings.
Jennings.
Yeah, Chuba Hubbard and Kenneth Walker are going after Roma Dunze are going after Calvin Ridley. It's kind of
No,
egregious.
give me all those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, it's egregious where we're taking him at. Where I think his ceiling is what we saw last year, where there's going to be a lot of ugly games, and then there's going to be that 3-game pop, and then there's going to be guys on Twitter that's like, that's why you don't sleep on Calvin Ridley. I'm like, it's been real easy to nap, dog,
Yeah.
for the 6 weeks I've had single digit points. So
That's you're nailing it. That's exactly how the season's going to play out.
yeah. We'll finish with one more vet on a new team that is on your list.
Yeah, this is the oldest of the bunch, and it's Cooper Kupp. Dude's 32 years old. Yeah. He is just I could probably just end the analysis right there. Be like, he's 32. All right, see you next week. But he's 32 years old. He has been often injured. He missed 18 games over the last 3 seasons here. He's now on a new offense that I don't think it's rude to say that it's potentially a lot worse. We don't know if Sam Darnold is for real or if he's going to turn back into a pumpkin. It's potentially a very run-heavy offense with Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet being there. I don't love where he's at, especially considering that he's a guy that works best out of the slot. I think JSN is going to be a guy that's going to be moving around that formation a lot and working on the outside a lot, and I'm really excited for that. But I also think that means that JSN is going to be the first read target a lot, and that is something that Cooper Kupp really needed when he was in LA with Matt Stafford. He had 32% of the first read targets on that team. He's likely not seeing that with JSN on the roster there in Seattle. There's another guy who was ranked really poorly in the first down per route run metric that I talk about. But the other thing that stood out to me, man, is just 33% of the team's receiving touchdowns last year. There was just a big touchdown cologne for Cooper Kupp. We were just like, okay, but he can score. If this Seahawks team can't score through the air, he's going to have to rely on volume. And if they're not going to be a volume-based passing attack, or JSN is going to be taking a lot of those early targets and first read targets, Cooper Kupp, even if he stays healthy, might not be a relevant fantasy player. We saw him decline so sharply over those final 5 games, averaging 2.5 receptions, 4.5 targets per game, wide receiver 77 during that stretch in fantasy points per game. Like, this is a guy that the title of the show is that I wouldn't draft him even if there's a fire. This is a guy that under no circumstances will I be drafting in fantasy football this year. I don't want any part of him.
Yeah, man. Cooper Kupp's one that I can't physically see him anymore. Like when he's on the draft boards, I don't even consider taking him anymore. If there's anyone that I could not talk myself into drafting, it's Cooper Kupp. You could spin a narrative for almost anybody on this list of why you should take him. I don't understand Cooper Kupp. And I'm going to piggyback and talk out of both of what you said and talk out of both sides of my mouth. I've drafted a lot at the Seahawks. I'm a big Kenneth Walker fan. I like JSN. Same. Sam Darnold I like at cost. But this entire team is a glass cannon. And I mean that in every sense of the word, where the ceiling is there. We all see it. That floor is it's in Death Valley, California, the lowest spot in America, guys. It is incredibly low because I love Clint Kubiak. So that's a plus there. I think Sam Darnold's competent when he has a good offense. See Clint Kubiak. It's that offensive line, man. That's why I think that could get this team in trouble. We've seen Sam Darnold really struggle to handle pressure. Even in the best case scenario, when he was like with KOC, we saw that collapse of the team. A lot of people want to say, well, Sam Darnold collapsed. Yes and no. The offensive line did, and he struggled. And then when that struggles, what does Sam Darnold need? He needs a strong running game. That kind of is the snowball effect of where that can affect this entire offense. Now you look at what all these things I said, who I haven't mentioned, Cooper Kupp, who is like the 5th option on this team at this point now that you want with the ball here. So if the worst guy, oldest guy in this offense that is already shaky, that's notice that the theme of this, if you're in a good offense, sometimes having the best piece isn't always the best. And when you think about some of these bad offenses, you really don't want the worst player on it at all. And I think it's just that easy.
Yeah, and we haven't even talked about like Elijah Arroyo, a guy who might be a cheat code for that offense too, who's sort of a wide receiver in a tight end body that they can move all over the place, and he's going to be taking some of those valuable close targets in the slot away from Cooper Kupp. Like, it's honestly, to me, it's just a lose-lose bet everywhere. If he's healthy, I don't like, there are so many stars that have to align for him to not only match his ADP, but to beat it, and he's not even being drafted all that high. I just don't want it.
Yeah, that's what, like, I love the way you put that too. It's just a lot of this is like so much has to go right for him, and he has to beat so many different metrics. It's like, I'll bet on Devontae Adams because he's already beating age curve expectations. He's on that Larry Fitzgerald route where, like, I will buy Devontae Adams. I'm like, cool, you're gonna retire here, dog. You're gonna be like, until you, like, he's gonna be putting up 10 points per game until it's over, essentially, I think, and I'm okay with that. Cooper Kupp, it's not like that, man. He's kind of what's the opposite of Blake Griffin? These guys that come in like Goran Dragic, where it's just like, oh wow, once that athleticism goes, you're just a white dude, you know.
That one hurt. That one hurt my heat heart.
I love some Dragic. He was like one of my favorite 2K players. And
Dude,
then like
the Dragon
one day
was the man.
Yeah, then one day I picked it up. I was like, why is Goran Dragic 68 overall?
Yeah, it hurt all of us down in South Florida too.
Yeah, that's kind of what happens to Cooper Kupps. So, but that'll end it, guys. As always, hit the like and subscribe button. I'll have more guests like Alfredo. I have some other ones coming up and lined up. I always have those short videos. And again, we're talking Dynasty, Redraft, and Best Ball here all season long. I'm Jagger. Love you. We'll see you on the next one.
So I thought I needed.